Rockstar walked into the luxury car dealership like any regular customer, casually glancing at the shiny sports cars lined up under the bright showroom lights. His leather jacket reflected the soft glow, and a faint smile played on his lips as he admired a classic convertible. He wasn't here to make a big purchase, just enjoying a quiet day, maybe imagining himself behind the wheel of his dream car. No one paid much attention to him at first, that is, until the dealership manager noticed him. The manager, a tall man with a strict look, squinted at Rockstar as if sizing him up. Something about his appearance seemed off to the manager, maybe the long hair, the sunglasses, or just the aura of confidence that surrounded him. Without warning, the manager stepped forward, his tone sharp. "Excuse me, you can't just wander in here and act like you belong," he barked. Rockstar turned calmly, giving him a polite smile. "I'm just looking around, no harm done." But the manager wasn't listening. His voice grew louder, more aggressive. "I don't care who you are. You need to leave now." Rockstar remained composed. His body language was relaxed but firm, every inch of him radiated calm confidence. He didn't argue, he didn't raise his voice. Instead, he simply looked the manager in the eyes, silently refusing to be intimidated. People around started to notice. A few whispered to each other. Some pulled out their phones, sensing that something unusual was happening. There was a tension in the air, thick enough to feel, as the manager's impatience clashed with Rockstar's serene poise. What Rockstar did next shocked everyone inside. Even without knowing who he was, everyone could tell this wasn't going to end like a normal confrontation. The manager's frustration was growing, while Rockstar's calmness made the situation feel almost surreal. Customers in the showroom paused, holding their breath, wondering how far this would go. Rockstar wasn't just a visitor anymore, he was the center of attention, and everyone could sense that something big was about to happen. The manager's face flushed red with frustration as Rockstar continued to stand calmly, unshaken by the verbal attack. He took a step closer, pointing a finger aggressively. "I don't care who you think you are. You need to leave this place immediately, or I'll call security." Rockstar's voice remained even and measured. "I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm just browsing, that's all." The manager's eyes narrowed, his patience wearing thin. "Browsing?" He spat, disbelief lacing his words. "You look suspicious. I don't want people like you here." A few bystanders started whispering, some raising their phones to film the confrontation. The air inside the showroom was thick with tension. Every eye was on Rockstar and the manager, sensing a clash that could explode at any moment. Rockstar's assistant, who had accompanied him, stepped forward nervously. "Maybe we should just go," he suggested quietly. But Rockstar shook his head subtly, his gaze still fixed on the manager. He wasn't going to back down, not because of ego, but because he knew the principle at stake. The manager scoffed, leaning closer. "You think you can just talk to me like that? I'm the one in charge here. Being in charge doesn't give anyone the right to belittle or threaten others." Rockstar replied calmly, his tone carrying a quiet authority that made the manager pause, just for a second. But the manager ignored the warning signs. His gestures became more aggressive, his tone louder, sharper. He started walking around Rockstar, trying to corner him near the cars. "You don't belong here. Do you understand me?" Rockstar remained composed, standing tall, his hands relaxed at his sides. He didn't flinch, he didn't escalate. His calmness seemed to draw the attention of everyone in the room, turning the confrontation into something almost cinematic. By now, several customers were filming. One whispered to another, "Who is this guy? He's not afraid at all." Rockstar's silence was louder than any words. He refused to engage in anger or retaliation. Instead, he let the manager's hostility reveal itself for what it was, a desperate attempt to assert power over someone he could not intimidate. The manager, sensing the crowd's growing attention, tried to regain control. "I said leave, now." Rockstar's response was simple, almost serene. "I'm leaving, but not because of fear. I'm leaving because I choose to, and I hope you remember that respect goes both ways." The words hung in the air like a challenge. Murmurs rippled through the showroom. Some people nodded in approval. Others raised their eyebrows, shocked at the calm defiance. Have you ever seen someone stand up to unfair treatment with calm confidence? Comment below where you're watching this from. The tension in the room was palpable. The manager's frustration was mounting. Rockstar's calmness was unwavering, and the bystanders couldn't look away. Every second felt like it was stretching longer than reality, and everyone waiting silently for what would happen next. Little did the manager know, the confrontation was far from over. Rockstar had a presence that demanded respect, not through fame or aggression, but through sheer dignity. And the moment was only beginning to turn into something unforgettable. The tension in the showroom was reaching its breaking point. The manager's voice was louder than ever, his frustration visible with every gesture, while Rockstar continued to remain calm, radiating an aura of quiet strength. Every movement he made was deliberate, controlled, and composed. He wasn't just standing his ground, he was showing the power of dignity under pressure. Rockstar's assistant, who had been standing a few steps behind him, began shifting nervously from foot to foot. Maybe we should just leave, he whispered urgently. He's getting more aggressive, and this could get out of hand. Rockstar shook his head slightly, a small, calm smile on his lips. No, he said softly, I'll handle this. We don't need to escalate, but we also won't bow down to unnecessary aggression. Meanwhile, a small crowd had gathered, sensing that something unusual was happening. Some customers had stepped aside, pulling out their phones ready to record, while others whispered to each other, speculating about who this mysterious man might be. The manager, oblivious to the growing audience and undeterred by Rockstar's calm demeanor, took another step forward, pointing his finger sharply. I don't care who you think you are. You have no right to be here. Leave now, or I'll have you removed myself. Rockstar didn't move. He didn't raise his voice. Instead, he took a small, measured step back, showing deference without giving in. His assistant's eyes widened, clearly worried about the escalating tension. Even Rockstar's bodyguards, though trained for physical threats, remained silent, trusting Rockstar's judgment. At that moment, a friend who had come along with Rockstar gently touched his shoulder. Maybe it's better to just walk away. He's getting dangerous, and this isn't worth it. Rockstar looked at his friend, his eyes calm but firm. Sometimes walking away isn't the lesson the world needs to see. This isn't about me. It's about showing respect and holding others accountable. The manager, now red, faced and flustered, didn't notice the growing whispers in the crowd. I said leave. Do you think this is a joke? Rockstar's composure was almost surreal. His voice, calm yet commanding, broke the tension in a way that made the manager pause for a brief moment. No one should be treated unfairly, especially by someone who's supposed to represent authority. Everyone deserves respect. The crowd began to murmur in approval, some nodding in silent agreement, others still recording the scene. The atmosphere had shifted. What was initially a simple confrontation had become a moment of observation, reflection, and tension. People weren't just watching. They were waiting, expecting something to happen next. Rockstar's calmness seemed to amplify the manager's aggression. The more the manager tried to assert dominance, the more composed Rockstar appeared. Every sarcastic remark, every angry gesture from the manager was met with stillness, not retaliation. His assistant, growing more nervous by the second, whispered, I've never seen anyone deal with this kind of hostility without losing their cool. It's incredible. Rockstar simply nodded slightly, acknowledging the comment but keeping his focus on the manager. Sometimes courage isn't loud. Sometimes it's silent, steady, and unwavering. He said softly, almost to himself. The manager, meanwhile, was beginning to feel the pressure of the crowd. Customers who had been quiet were now exchanging glances, some stepping closer to see what would happen next. The manager's confidence was faltering, even though he didn't want to show it. In that tense moment, it became clear. Rockstar wasn't just a celebrity or a musician. He was a force of calm authority, standing against unnecessary aggression. And while his assistant and friend fretted, everyone watching could feel that the confrontation was about to escalate further, but in a way that would leave a lasting impression. The room held its breath, waiting for the next move. Would the manager finally realize he was in the presence of someone extraordinary? Humiliate the Hewaltselfchen in the ROCKSTSSRHOWROOM was S Citesli its ENTLY Rodabdak LESSON, in possessed respect, dignity, and strength. The tension in the showroom had reached a palpable peak. The manager's face was flushed with anger, his frustration growing with every passing second. Yet Rockstar remained the picture of calm, standing tall, unshaken, radiating quiet authority. His eyes scanned the room, not with arrogance, but with patience, as if silently daring the manager to overstep. Meanwhile, whispers began circulating among the crowd. A customer who had been watching from the corner leaned closer to his friend, voice barely audible. "Wait, isn't that Rockstar?" he murmured. The friend squinted, trying to see clearly, then gasped. It can't be the Rockstar. The Rockstar." The word spread like wildfire. Shoppers, initially curious about the confrontation, now began connecting the dots. Smartphones were raised, cameras pointed, and whispers became audible chatter. "That's him, the Rockstar. The one who's performed all over the world." Some people stepped closer to get a better look. Others nudged their friends, pointing out small, recognizable details: the signature leather jacket, the familiar hairstyle, even the calm, commanding demeanor that seemed to set him apart from everyone else. Yet the manager, consumed by his own sense of authority and irritation, didn't notice the recognition growing around him. He continued to bark orders, trying to assert dominance, completely oblivious to the fact that the very man he was humiliating was a global icon. Rockstar, however, didn't use the recognition to his advantage, at least not yet. He didn't shout, "I'm Rockstar," or wave to the crowd. Instead, he remained humble, letting the tension speak for itself. His calmness was magnetic. It drew people in. They watched transfixed, not just because he was famous, but because of the way he handled himself, confident, composed, and dignified in the face of aggression. A few brave bystanders finally spoke up, unable to contain their excitement. "Sir, do you know who you're speaking to?" one asked hesitantly, pointing toward Rockstar. He's the Rockstar." The manager froze, blinking as the words sank in. The room seemed to grow silent for a moment. Customers stopped filming, jaws dropped, and the collective energy shifted. Suddenly, the atmosphere wasn't just tense, it was electric. But Rockstar didn't gloat. He didn't smirk or raise his voice. He simply gave the manager a calm, steady look, allowing the truth to speak louder than any words could. The crowd's whispers grew into murmurs of awe, admiration, and disbelief. Phones recorded every second, capturing the moment when the Rockstar's quiet dignity stood in sharp contrast to the manager's flustered arrogance. Some people chuckled softly, incredulous that someone so influential could be treated this way. Others whispered praises, impressed not just by his fame, but by the way he maintained composure. Even his assistant and friends, who had been nervous moments ago, exchanged glances of relief and pride. The manager's anger now mingled with embarrassment, though he tried to mask it. He opened his mouth to respond, but the words faltered. He realized, far too late, that he had underestimated the man standing before him. Rockstar remained silent for a few more seconds, allowing the tension to linger, letting everyone, including the manager, absorb the lesson unfolding in real time. Respect wasn't demanded. It was earned quietly and effortlessly, through composure, integrity, and unwavering self-confidence. The room had shifted from confrontation to admiration. Rockstar had become the center of attention, not because of fame alone, but because of the extraordinary way he handled hostility. Everyone present sensed that what they were witnessing was more than a simple argument. It was a lesson in respect, humility, and strength that would stay with them long after they left the showroom. And in that moment, the story was far from over. The next chapter would reveal not just the manager's humiliation, but the full impact of Rockstar's calm power, and it was about to shock everyone present. The showroom was electric with anticipation. Everyone's eyes were fixed on Rockstar, who had become the center of attention not because of fame alone, but because of the way he carried himself. Calm, unshakable, commanding without raising his voice, the manager, now visibly flustered, tried to regain control. He pointed a finger at Rockstar, his voice trembling with irritation. "I don't care if you're famous or not. You still can't act like you own this place. Leave now." Rockstar's response was measured, deliberate, and impossibly powerful in its simplicity. He stepped forward just slightly, enough to command the room's attention, and spoke in a calm, resonant voice that carried across the showroom. "Respect isn't given based on who someone is or what they've done. It's a right everyone deserves, and it isn't earned by threatening or intimidating others." The words were like a wave washing over the crowd. Customers paused in their tracks, phones held frozen mid-recording, mesmerized by the quiet authority in his tone. Even the manager seemed momentarily stunned, unable to find a response. Rockstar continued, his eyes steady on the manager, yet inclusive of the entire room. "You don't prove strength by raising your voice or by pushing people around. True strength is measured by how you treat others, especially when you have power. Everyone here deserves to be treated with fairness and dignity." A hush fell over the showroom. The murmurs from bystanders grew louder, but now in agreement, in awe. People leaned in, nodding subtly, some whispering to their friends, some shaking their heads in disbelief at the manager's behavior. Phones continued to record, capturing not just the confrontation, but the lesson being delivered in real time. The manager's anger began to falter under the weight of Rockstar's calm authority. His gestures slowed, his voice wavered. He realized, painfully, that his attempts to assert dominance were meaningless against someone who wielded power differently through dignity, poise, and quiet confidence. Rockstar's assistant, standing a few feet behind, exhaled quietly, impressed and relieved. His friends whispered among themselves, amazed at the way Rockstar had handled the situation. There was no shouting, no retaliation, just clarity, calm, and the undeniable force of integrity. Rockstar's voice, calm but commanding, filled the room again. "I'm not here to humiliate anyone, but no one should ever feel small or threatened because of someone else's assumptions. That is the lesson not just for today, but for everyone who watches this moment." By now, the entire showroom had shifted. The crowd, initially tense and uncertain, was now completely on Rockstar's side. Some people cheered softly, others clapped quietly, and many continued recording, knowing they were witnessing something extraordinary. The manager, cornered by both the crowd's awareness and Rockstar's unwavering composure, finally faltered completely. His words caught in his throat, his fists slowly lowered, and his face flushed with humiliation. The power dynamic had shifted entirely, and it was unmistakable. Rockstar didn't gloat. He didn't mock or boast. He simply remained steady, calm, and composed, demonstrating that true influence doesn't come from fear, force, or intimidation. It comes from presence, integrity, and respect. In that moment, the message was clear to everyone in the room. True power is quiet. True authority is earned through dignity, and true respect is something everyone deserves, no matter who they are. The stage was now set for the final revelation, the moment when the manager's embarrassment would become complete, and the bystanders would witness the full impact of Rockstar's calm, commanding, and unforgettable response. The showroom had gone completely silent, the tension thick enough to feel with every breath. Rockstar stood still, calm and composed, letting the moment speak for itself. Around him, the crowd leaned closer, phones raised, waiting for the inevitable revelation. It started quietly, almost imperceptibly. A young customer, still holding her phone, whispered to the person next to her, "Guys, I think that's Rockstar. The real Rockstar." The words spread like wildfire. One person nudged another. "Wait, the one and only Rockstar, the Rockstar." The crowd's whispers grew into audible murmurs. People started pointing, confirming details. The signature leather jacket, the unmistakable hair, the composed aura, and the confident way he carried himself. A sense of awe rippled through the room. Everyone realized that the man being confronted wasn't just any customer, he was a world-famous musician, a rock legend, a figure whose presence could command stadiums, yet here he was, standing quietly against hostility. The manager's face slowly paled as the realization sank in. He opened his mouth, perhaps to apologize or defend himself, but no words came. He was frozen, caught in the unmistakable moment of his own embarrassment. He had been shouting, threatening, and trying to assert power over someone he didn't recognize. And that someone was Rockstar. A staff member from the dealership finally stepped forward, confirming to the manager in a trembling voice, "Sir, that really is Rockstar. He's the Rockstar." The crowd erupted with soft cheers and murmurs of admiration. People began clapping, phones filming every reaction, capturing the manager's humiliation and Rockstar's quiet dignity. The contrast was stark. One man flustered, red-faced, powerless, the other calm, commanding, unshaken, and radiating respect. Rockstar didn't gloat. He didn't smirk or boast. He simply nodded slightly, acknowledging the crowd's recognition with quiet grace. His eyes met the manager's one last time, and in that calm gaze the lesson was unmistakable. Respect cannot be demanded, it must be earned, and cruelty or aggression will never stand against integrity and dignity. The manager finally lowered his head, swallowing his pride as he stepped back, defeated. The employees, the customers, and even the bystanders who had been watching in awe couldn't hide their reactions: shock, admiration, and a newfound understanding of true authority. Rockstar's assistant, now visibly relieved, whispered to him, "You handled that perfectly. Nobody could have done it better." Rockstar smiled faintly, the weight of the moment settling in. "It's not about winning or proving a point," he said softly. "It's about showing that dignity and respect matter more than fear or intimidation." The crowd's energy shifted completely. What had started as a hostile confrontation had become a powerful lesson. The story of the manager's arrogance and Rockstar's calm defiance was now etched in everyone's memory. Phones continued recording, capturing the lesson for the world to see. As people slowly dispersed, the impact of the moment lingered. Rockstar had turned a tense, potentially explosive situation into a display of humility, courage, and quiet power. The truth was out. This was more than a celebrity moment. It was a lesson in respect, strength, and human decency that everyone present would carry with them. The stage was now set for the final chapter, the moment when the incident goes viral, the manager faces consequences, and Rockstar's message spreads worldwide. By the time Rockstar left the showroom, the incident had already spread like wildfire. Phones from every corner of the dealership were recording, capturing every tense moment, every word, every silent pause that had turned the confrontation into a lesson in respect and dignity. Within hours, clips were being shared online, comments flooding in from fans, strangers, and anyone who had ever witnessed or experienced unfair treatment. The story of the manager's arrogance and Rockstar's unwavering calmness struck a chord across social media. People admired not just his fame, but the way he handled the situation, without anger, without threats, but with undeniable authority. The clips were shared with captions like, "Watch how a true legend handles hostility with dignity. This is what power really looks like: quiet, firm, unshakable." Meanwhile, the manager faced a storm of public scrutiny. Comments criticized his behavior, highlighting the unnecessary hostility and lack of respect he had shown. The dealership received inquiries and complaints from customers who had witnessed the incident, questioning professionalism and how authority should be exercised. Yet the focus wasn't just on the humiliation of the manager. It was on Rockstar's remarkable presence. Viewers praised him for showing that true strength doesn't come from shouting, intimidation, or control, but from calm confidence, integrity, and respect for others. People were inspired, sharing stories of similar moments where patience and dignity had overcome hostility. Even celebrities and media outlets picked up the story, amplifying the message further. Articles titled, "Rockstar Turns Hostile Showroom Encounter into a Lesson in Respect. How Calm Confidence and Dignity Can Disarm Even the Most Aggressive," began circulating, cementing the incident as more than a viral video. It had become a lesson for the world. Rockstar himself remained humble in interviews. He didn't boast about the incident or mock the manager. Instead, he emphasized the principle that had guided his actions. No one should be treated unfairly because of assumptions or appearances. Respect is universal, and everyone deserves it. Fans and followers praised the story, using hashtags like #respect, #dignity, #calmpower, #rockstarlesson, #viraljustice, #inspiration, turning the video into a movement of awareness about civility and fairness. The story resonated globally, inspiring people to think twice before judging others or using authority to intimidate. For Rockstar, the moment was never about fame or public attention. It was about showing that integrity matters more than ego, that kindness and courage can coexist, and that a single calm, principled response can have a ripple effect far greater than anger or retaliation ever could. By the end of the day, the world had witnessed a powerful reminder. True respect cannot be demanded. It must be recognized. And those who attempt to suppress others through fear or arrogance will inevitably be humbled. Not by force, but by dignity, composure, and quiet strength. Rockstar's actions left an indelible mark. The incident became a symbol, a story that people would tell, share, and remember. And while the manager faced the consequences of his behavior, the real victory belonged to Rockstar, who proved once again that courage and integrity always speak louder than words, fame, or threats. If you believe everyone deserves respect, type respect in the comments, share this story, and follow for more inspiring moments where dignity triumphs over hostility.